I, Jasmin Anna Maxwell, will be presenting my PAC thesis, a training and rehabilitation center for the visually impaired. Visual impairment is defined as a loss or lack of ability to execute tasks requiring adequate visual acuity. Rehabilitation is defined as the process aimed at enabling persons with visual impairment to reach and maintain their optimal physical, sensory, intellectual, psychological, and functional social levels, so that they could change their lives to a higher degree of empowerment and independence. Looking into the global scenario, there are over 2 billion people with visual impairments, 10 million of them in India. In the state of Kerala, there are 3,34,662 people with visual impairments, out of which 45% of them are not educated and around 13% in the ages of 10 to 30. In spite of this, there are less than 15 institutes established for the blind community all over India. There are schools that have taken up visually impaired students, but the courses are not catered to the needs of the blind user groups. To further understand the user groups, you have to know what and how they perceive these spaces. Therefore, various categories of visual impairment, low vision, and visual acuity were studied. The surroundings are experienced and perceived through sensory acquisition, mainly through the sense of touch or tactility, along with olfactory, auditory, and sometimes gustatory senses. To understand how these different sensory perception can be acquired through design, 6 case studies were conducted, 5 literature and 1 life. Them being 1. The Hazelwood School in Glasgow, Center for Visually Impaired and Blind in Mexico, Blind Relief Association, Delhi, National Association for the Blind in Delhi, National Association for the Blind in Karnataka, which was a live case study, and finally, Vocational Training Center in Calicut. After studying these 7 parameters based on design strategies, user groups, and building elements are extracted. It being 1. The site details and context. All the case studies compared, the inferences and the standards leans towards 30% of built-up area in a more quiet, calm environment, which is easily accessible and has less traffic for the road training purposes. Next is the zoning and planning. The zoning strategy used in the Hazelwood School, Glasgow, and Center for the Blind, Mexico, proves to be the most accurate, where similar functions are zoned together. Volumetric hierarchy is given to different zones and activities. Similar courses are zoned together, thus forming different zones according to activities, both horizontally and in other buildings vertically. The next is circulation and mobility. Circulation is one of the most important factors when it comes to design. The circulation should be linear, memorable with suitable cues. Symmetry and closed shapes such as circles seen in NAB Delhi should be avoided so as to not create confusions. Ramps are preferred over staircases, and single-story structures are preferred over multi-storied ones. There should be a clear limitation to vehicular access within the campus, and the campus design should be pedestrian-oriented. Next is the special qualities and elements. As seen in the Hazelwood School and Center for the Blind Mexico, classrooms are well lit, fenestrations are positioned in a way so as to avoid glare, and clerestory windows and courtyards are used for ventilation and cooling purposes. Lobby and pathways are cleared from any projections and obstacles so as to create a hassle-free path. Indoor spaces are linked with significant outdoor spaces, and buffers are produced to reduce distractions. Then we have sensory experience. Several techniques have been used all over the case studies, common ones being tactile cues, tiles and graphics in walls and flooring for guidance, color contrast and use of bright colors like yellow, courtyards for haptic senses such as wind pressure, sunlight, flora and fauna, sensory gardens. Center for the Visually Impaired uses the element of water in their plaza as guidance, that is the sound and the smell of water. The Hazelwood School has niches in the wall called trail rails for guidance. The shape and form. Free-flowing forms with volumetric differences are the ones that are commonly seen throughout the case studies. Next is the program structure. Mainly 2 types of programs are common, that is the academic and vocational. The student-teacher ratio is 1:5. The academic training is for learning braille, mobility, and life skills. Vocational training is more career-oriented. Consolidating the above study, a project brief is created. The aim of the project is to design training, research, and rehabilitation center for the visually impaired. The different courses will include vocational training, multi-skill and life skill training, and academic training. The user groups include students aged 10 to 19, vocational training trainers aged 20 to 30, staff, trainees, trainers, and authority staff. A total of 300 students and 60 teaching staff would be the demographic. Site analysis. The site is a government-owned site with an area of 19 acres located in the region of Chinnakada in the Kollam district. It is located near the Jolly Silks in Chinnakada and is an abandoned cotton mills factory site. The site has the view of Ashtamadi Lake on the north and the city centre from the south. Chinnakada, being the heart of Kollam city, is one of the most easily accessible areas. The site has Kochi-Kanyakumari highway on the south and the link road adjacent in the north. Climate is an important factor when it comes to design, and hence sun path is studied. The east-west orientation is best advised. Predominant winds are seen from the southwest to the northeast. When microclimate is accessed, winds are also received from the lake side. It is a sloping site having a 12-meter level difference over a 300-meter stretch. Accessibility to the site from the non-traffic road, that is the link road, makes this suitable for the road training. Different factors like topography and context features such as land use map and height analysis were also conducted and studied. A 50-meter setback is required from the Ashtamadi Lake for building construction purposes. When the sensory features on the site are studied, it is shown that an auditory buffer is required when designing in the site. Different services like hydrology, geomorphology, and site influences were also studied so as to produce an efficient design. Swot analysis. The strength. The site being less than 1 kilometer away from the Kollam city centre can be a great catalyst for area development. The location proves best to train visually impaired persons to be independent. The weakness. The site is near the water body and being abandoned has accumulated waste. The auditory features from the neighbouring sites are to be solved in the site design. Opportunities. It has the potential to be one of the best social institutes in India, helping the city and people's development and growth. It will prove as a medium for self-employment and independency. Keeping the user groups in mind, tactility is one of the key features for the project and hence my special topic. Tactility isn't just limited to a surface. It evokes emotions through tangible and intangible sources. Different techniques for acquiring this has been studied. Materials and thermal properties has been listed to further provide tactile and thermal comfort to the user groups. The design process started with area programming, but the different requirements and their areas were understood and studied. Based on that, proximity charts were prepared for different zones and for different spaces within each zone. It is thus concluded in a zonal bubble diagram showing the proximity and a brief zoning of all the spaces. Site zoning. As mentioned, there are two access points, of which the link road is considered the main access due to its easy accessibility, calm and trafficless atmosphere, making it suitable for road training as well. The site used to be an abandoned cotton mill factory, thus creating a unique ecosystem of flora and fauna. To conserve that, the built environment will be restricted to the already used land. The Vehicular Axis is restricted to the shortest distance between the two access points. Climatic features are looked into, creating wind tunneling effects to all spaces. The elements are zoned in a 30-meter distance interval as per CPWD walkability norms. Coming to the master plan. The total built-up area is 21,701 square meter with a ground coverage of 20% and an FAR of 0.28. The Vehicular Axis is a two-way road that leads to the main drop-off point, parking spaces, and different service points throughout the site. The pedestrian pathway is planned to enhance the sensory experience of its user groups. Entering into the site, there is a welcoming water feature pergola that has a tactile map on one side and the trickling water effect on the other to enhance the auditory and haptic senses. Moving through the walkway along it, tactile guides are provided as per standards and the trickling of the water becomes a stream. The sound from the flora, the fauna, the birds chirping and the rustling of the trees in the conserved zone enhances this experience. At 30 meters is the first rest space, a pergolic structure that predominantly plays with the light and shadow, extending into the conserved zones. Then we move on to the equidistant core and build spaces. First being the admin block and the auditorium space that limits the public. In the core space, the stream of water turns into an interactive fountain feature, playing with the different sound intensity of water. Its auditory feature becomes a guide in orientation for the users. Every element given in the core space is based on functionality and in coherence to the indoor spaces. The baseball ground is zoned near the gym and pool, forming the recreational zone. Similarly, the outdoor classroom spaces are provided with academic block, seating spaces with the cafe and admin block, and outdoor workshops with the vocational training block. Then we reach our main block, which is the training and academic block. As we walk to the sensory garden, it is provided for a form of sensory enhancement. The olfactory garden consists of different aromatic plants such as tulsi, lemon balm, jasmine, and other local species provided with respect to the soil conditions and climatic features. Then the tactile space, which is lined with plants that respond to tactility such as touch me not, bamboo, and inner court that has tactile boards and panels for learning purposes. The auditory space plays with the sound of water, creating soundscape interactive installations like vertical instruments such as xylophone with different materials and whisper pipes installation where one talks through one side and the other listens, hence forming a part of their auditory training. Moving on to the two types of outdoor training spaces, one is for the material identification through canes and the other for mobility, which is the maze. Throughout the site, there are stimulation crosswalks to help navigation training. The sensory gardens are also lined with different fruit trees for gustatory enhancement. A hill reflecting the site level difference is maintained to reach the living spaces and hostels. Through that hill, the tunnel is the next sensory experience. It's a dynamic structure that will evolve from day to night, playing with light reflections, consisting of braille motivational quotes on its walls. The whole site is zoned with the concept of solids and voids. That is, every indoor space has a consequent outdoor spaces, which will help in learning, training, and achieving their goal. Moving on to individual plans, several techniques have been used in the plans to help guide the user groups. Mainly trail rails, which are walls with niche, having braille writing, tactile pathways, and infographic tiles. Similar functions having similar flooring materials, linear circulation with no obstacles, and so on. The first, we have the admin block, with main access leading to the administrative and public spaces, auditorium and clinic. Cafe space can be accessed from the admin as well as from the main block. Deck spaces connect to the outdoors leading to the core zone. Different types of flooring materials and tactile tiles are also used for the guidance. A 300 occupancy auditorium is also provided in the zone. There are 3 different access points to this block. A service drop-off point is adjacent to the kitchen and cafe space. Next, we have the vocational training and academic block, which is designed with trail rails with braille inside. A 1.2 meter wide tactile guide is provided all throughout the lobby spaces. The zoning strategy used involves spacing of similar functions being zoned together. In each space, the accessibility and functionality is looked into. For example, in the student lounge, it is designed in a different level than the corridor spaces. Interior layouts designed with 2-meter circulation spaces in between. All doors are designed with small wall lobbies, which gives a storage niche and for their white cane and other equipments, and also gives a specific area for entry and exits. In the academic section, the classrooms are aligned in such a way so as to avoid glare but be ventilated. Stairs from the classrooms lead to outdoor learning spaces. Interior layouts show a more social and group type learning. The first floor consists of library, studios, and trainers' training classrooms. The library space is designed to act as not just a secondary information source, but an interactive and gathering sharing space for all user groups, where humans are the resources. Hence, it is designed in different parts. The first part being the reception and entrance foyer, the second being Braille audiobooks and quick reference side where one can issue books and read them as well. And the third section is where interaction and sharing of experiences are taken place. To ensure no glare and thermally comfortable indoor spaces, different shading devices are used. Clerestory windows and lower windows are given for proper ventilation. The facades are lined with Jolly Works textured concrete and brick design for a tactile experience and perception. Then we have the recreation block that is adjacent to our Beep baseball ground. In this, it is divided into two parts. One being indoor games such as rock climbing, board games, entertainment units, and the other part being swimming pools. The swimming pool is designed in two ways, the training pool and the adult pool. The training pool is only 1 meter deep, and the adult pool is 3 meters deep. An offset of 3 meters is given for each pool, and 1 meter immediate warning offsets are also given. Observation zones are provided for coaches. It is also used for auditory learning and entertainment. These have decks that can be accessed to the outdoor landscape zone. The building facade of the structure is provided with a wave-like pattern corresponding to their interior functions. Finally, we have the hostel block or the living spaces. It is a G+5 combined hostel with the girls on the west wing and the boys on the east wing. A dining space that is interactive links the both on the ground floor. On the upper floors, it is separated by study halls. Open study spaces and labs are provided in every floor. The rooms are designed for two, with an attached washroom and organized interior spaces leading to a balcony. My special topic, the sensory architecture focusing on tangible and intangible tactility, that is, different texture materials are used in different spaces to evoke a sense of understanding and calmness. In classrooms, wooden flooring and smoother texture is used, while in corridors, a more gripped texture is used, with the use of tactile paving. Intangible sources such as heat and light are also used to further experience the space and understand it to its full potential. The orientation and type of fenestrations, the use of water in creating a soundscape, and the use of solids and voids to create volumetric differences are one of the key features used throughout the designing of this building. Through this thesis, I hope to inspire and shed light on the elements that are beyond the eyes, so that everybody can experience spaces through its full sensory potential. Thank you.